President Muhammadu Buhari is currently presiding over a virtual cabinet meeting at the council chambers of the State House, Abuja. Those physically present at the meeting are the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, and Head of Service of the Federation, Folashade Yemieson. Also in attendance are Ministers of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, and Justice Abubakar Malami. Others are Ministers of Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Bello, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, Agriculture, Mohammed Abubakar, Aviation, Hadi Sarika, Mines and Steel Development, Olamilekan Adegbite, Ministers of State for Education, Goodluck Opia, Agriculture and Rural Development, Mustafa Shehuri, Budget and National Planning, Clement Agba, Environment, Odum Udi. Other ministers are attending virtually from their various offices in Abuja. Lawyers have warned that the frequent disobedience to court orders by government at all levels will not bode well for the survival of democracy in Nigeria. They called on the executive arm of government and security agencies to always ensure compliance with court orders. Joining us now to discuss the disobedience to judicial orders and the implication for democracy is the chairman of the Nigeria Bar Association Section on Public Interest and Development Law, Dr. Monday Ubani. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, I'd like to know what the implication of this frequent disobedience to court orders by government officials will have on our democracy.
Yeah, thank you. I will answer you straight away. It portends grave danger for our country, especially a country that is said to be under democracy. There is nothing like the rule of law. The moment you allow lawlessness to prevail in any society, what it breeds is anarchy. Everyone wakes up and does what it pleases him, and nobody will be safe. It will return us to the law of nature, where everyone is not safe, and that cannot be the desire of people who have actually come together to form a society and elect some people to preside over that particular society. And so it's important that whosoever at any point in time that presides over a country must ensure the enthronement of the rule of law, the supremacy of rule of law, obedience to court orders. And that's why SPIDA is organizing a conference in Abuja from the 4th of August to 5th, in which they will highlight the dangers of undermining the judicial power in democracy. It portends danger. It is not something that should be contemplated at all, because it brings, as I said earlier, a state of anarchy. And we have invited the current CJN, who was confirmed yesterday, to declare that conference open. We will have a keynote address coming from Justice Okoro, who happens to be a justice of the Supreme Court. And we have people like Femi Falana, Mike Ezekome. I mean, these are senior lawyers, and even the president of the bar, Mr. Olumide Apata, who will participate in that conference. As I said earlier, it's a conference that is taking place in Abuja. And we will examine this issue of disobedience to court orders, the danger that it portends for any democratic country.
It certainly is a worrying situation when the legal arm of the country is not living up to what it's supposed to be. I want to talk about trustworthiness and dependability. Now, these things are what we would hope from our judiciary, but it seems, just as we've been discussing, that those have been sliding in a slippery slope towards, and I fear to use this word, autocracy. What are the dangers, the implicit dangers to our democracy if we don't have a system of checks and balances, and the system that is supposed to check and balance is not doing what it's supposed to do? How can this be resolved?
Yeah, that is a very intelligent question. Of course, you remember that it was Montesquieu, I think he's a philosopher, a king, who propounded the theory of checks and balances. In a democracy, there are three majorly arms of government. We have the executive, we have the legislative, and then we have the judiciary. And the understanding in democracy is that each must check in each other and ensure that there is no autocracy exercised by any of the arms. the executive executes, the legislative chamber, makes law, and then the judiciary interprets the law. And if there is any time any of them misbehaves or go contrary to the law, then the third arm of government must always be there to give a correct perspective, a correct interpretation of what the law ought to be, what the law is supposed to be, to have a functional society. As I said earlier, absence of law means anarchy. And where any of the arms of government becomes autocratic and does not obey the law itself he has enacted, then it means that the country or the society will gravitate into pure anarchy, where no one will be safe. And you remember that the primary responsibility of every government is protection of lives, of property, and safety of the people, and then the welfare. Now, when there is no security due to lack of law, due to lack of observance of rule of law, or where one arm is more autocratic than other, then that country will be in a very big problem. And so it's important we emphasize the fact that each arm of government must check one another. If there is any point in time where the judiciary becomes autocratic in the interpretation, the legislative can go ahead and make a law in order to reduce the powers of the legislature. So also in executing, where there is any autocracy being exercised by the executive, the other two arms can come in and say, oh, you don't do it this way, or this is the way it's supposed to do. So they all check each other in order to ensure a balancing in the society and also protect the society and protect the citizens who are beneficiaries of the dividends of democracy. So it's important that is that checks and balances in order to ensure that it's orderliness in the society.
Now, some would question if the citizens actually are beneficiaries of the judiciary, because there is a perception that the judiciary has been compromised. We have cases where I'm not going to name any, but where people have sought, justice, and then a certain person in government has made a phone call and said, dismiss this case, and it's been relegated to the background. So I'm just wondering how the judiciary plans to clean up its image for Nigerians to even begin to trust them before we even, talk about orders being flouted when it looks as though the executive and the judiciary actually won.
The position of the law is that the judiciary remains the last hope of everyone. Well, they usually say it remains the last hope of the common man. I think that even those who are rich must also be given justice, just as a poor man is also entitled to justice. Now, where the judiciary loses the confidence of the people, then the society is in trouble. The judiciary must be bold. The judiciary must be very courageous. The judiciary must be very impartial. The judiciary must, enthrone justice at all times, irrespective of whose ox is God, irrespective of the pocket of that individual. That's why there is this particular, effigy that is being shown. There is this particular thing they usually show when you associate yourself with judiciary of a woman that is completely blind. What is the meaning of that? It means that individual does not look at face of individual. He does not look at the pocket of whoever appears before the judiciary. What he does, he sees only justice and ensure that justice is meted out to any of the party that comes before judiciary for justice. Are there issues with judiciary where sometimes we don't get that justice? Of course, in every society, there are the bad eggs. And that's why people have been making recommendation that in issue of recruitment process of our judicial officers, we must be sure who we are recruiting, because a judicial officer must be above board. A judicial officer cannot be compromised. He must be like Caesar's wife. He must have knowledge of the law, and he must also have character and integrity. Now, if you have problem in the recruitment process and bring some certain persons who lack those qualities I've just mentioned, of course, it will affect the output in the judicial sector. And that's why we are saying that must be taken seriously in terms of recruitment. We must also be sure that we also watch them. The NJC does that. Anytime any judge steps out of bounds, there is this disciplinary measure that is usually meted out to some of them. Some of them have been dismissed. Some of them have been actually suspended.
Dr. Obani, I'd like to quickly, briefly interrupt you. We have breaking news just reaching us, which says that the Minority Caucus in the Senate has given President Muhammadu Buhari 6 weeks ultimatum to address the rising insecurity in the country or face impeachment. Minority Leader of the Senate, Philip Aduda, disclosed this to reporters after staging a walkout from plenary along with other senators in the People's Democratic Party. The caucus is asking the president to urgently find a solution to end the endless killings and growing threats in Abuja and other parts of the country. So, Dr. Ubani, I'd like to ask you to react to this breaking news, where the minority caucus in the Senate is threatening to impeach the president if he doesn't deal with insecurity in Nigeria in 6 weeks.
I am very happy that the attention of the president is being drawn to the state of anarchy, so to speak, that is pervading in the country, where bandits and terrorists are almost taking over the country. I mean, nowhere is safe. Abuja, you hear what happened in Abuja recently, to the extent that even the law students that are being called to the bar today, they had to shift to another venue in order for the lawyers to be called to bar. So it gives you an impression that the country is clearly unsafe, and then there is absence of governance. And so for the minority, the legislators to give the president warning and telling him and drawing his attention to the state of insecurity that is pervading the country is a very good one. But the issue of impeachment is unlikely. And why is it unlikely is because of the membership, the composition of the House. The threat did not come from members of the APC. It came from the members of the minority PDP that is in the House. And they cannot constitute the requisite number in order to impeach the president. But the most important thing is the president's attention has been drawn that the country today is not safe, that lives and securities are not properly secured. And there is clearly now evidence of absence of governance. And it's a very dangerous signal. And that the president should sit up with his security chiefs in order to secure the country. Now there is threat all over, threatening Lagos, threatening Abuja, and all over the country. I don't know what the guys have in mind, but the government must be up and doing in order to ensure that they are in charge. Sovereignty belongs to the government, to the people. But the government must show the people that they are in charge of governance. And every apparatus of government must be totally under control. So I'm very happy with that warning. But as for impeachment, clearly unlikely.
And with this impeachment, I struggle to say it's something, or this rumors of impeachment, I struggle to say that it's a little bit of medicine after death. We know we have been in this tight security situation for months. We saw the awful videos of the kidnapped victims from the Abuja-Kaduna train. Months and months they've been there. We saw videos of them being beaten. We've heard the president, we've heard the non-state agents threaten to attack the president and the governor of Kaduna State. We have seen clerics being taken every week for months. We've seen a lot. What can be done? We know the president likes to give marching orders to his security chiefs. He's been doing so for months, trying to get them to do their own job or do more. Now the buck has been put on his own table. I would be completely surprised if this is the first time he was alerted to the situation. I don't know why it would take threats of impeachment to make things more. But my question today is, what can be done? The security chiefs, the president, everyone is being called to order. Everyone is being given marching orders, but we're still not feeling any safer than possible. What can be done in order to put more pressure on those who are in power to implement more creative strategies to ridding us of these terrorists and bandits?
There is a piece of news that I read in the week that really made me to be afraid. That information is that the security personnel in the country said they know where the bandits and the terrorists are. But that the only snag is that they cannot bomb them because they have in their custody some of the citizens in their hostage. I am worried that the security knows where these people are. And they are saying they cannot do anything. They are throwing their arms up in the air, giving us a state of hopelessness and helplessness. It doesn't give a correct impression, of the fight against terrorism. Now, that cannot happen in the US. It can happen in the UK. In all these developed climes, that the security agency will come and tell the members of the public and say, we know where the criminals are. We know where they are residing. We know where they live. But we cannot take certain action because of so reason. I'm surprised that such a statement was dished out to the members of the public. So it gives an impression that these people cannot do anything. So I think going straight to your question, I think they need to be more proactive. They need to take steps in order to ensure that they nip this in the bud. A situation where the bandits and terrorists are running down the country and they now threaten the president of the country. They even attack his convoy. They even have access now to Abuja, which is the seat of government, giving us, a very good reason to ask this government actually to resign, because that was one of the reasons why they asked President Jonathan to go, because Abuja was under attack by terrorists. And they said, look, if this man cannot secure the seat of power, then he has no reason to remain there in government. That was part of the campaign in 2015. So Abuja now is under threat. Policemen and army have been killed, and nothing has been said, from the presidency in order to give us a sense of what is actually happening. So issue of threat of impeachment, to me, as you said earlier, is of no consequence. I think that the president should live up to his expectation and also the promises they made. The security agency should be more proactive and put a lot of wisdom in dealing with this issue. They cannot give us this kind of news that they cannot do anything. You give us that news, it means that these guys will soon overrun the government and overrun Nigeria. And that is clearly very scary for everyone who is in the country. So something has to be done. A more proactive measure has to be taken in order to secure Nigeria and secure the citizens.
Thank you, Dr. Ubani. Now, of course, your opinion is that an impeachment threat is an exercise in futility. But let's just pretend that, this is actually a good step in the right direction. What would be the what are the right steps involved in the impeachment of the president, and what are the chances that the senators can actually see this through?
Yes, it is a procedure. It starts by a certain number of persons signing, the issue of the allegation against the president, why he should be impeached. So the requisite number must sign that particular petition. And of course, when it is being debated also in the House, the requisite number of persons must also participate in the voting in order to give it an opportunity for the second or the third stage. It is at that point, of course, a panel will be, the CJN will be asked to set up a panel in order to look at those allegations, and the president given an opportunity to defend. Now, passing that process, if they come to a resolution that he has actually committed an impeachable offense, that again will come back to the House, and a resolution will be passed, in which case the president will stand impeached. And so it's a whole lot of procedure. If you go through the Constitution, if you don't follow any of the process in that impeachment process, you cannot in any way succeed. Even if you use an illegal method in order to remove the president or the governor, if the matter goes to court, the court will look at the process. Even though I agree that normally the court do not want to interfere with internal, happenings in the House based upon the provisions of the Constitution. But wherever you have started to exercise a power in accordance with the law, you must allow that process to go through. So any of them that you breach, the court will now come in to say, no, even though we cannot interfere in your internal matter, you must comply with the law as long as you are applying provisions of the law. And so it's a long process. I doubt the possibility of them succeeding, as I said earlier. One, with a House that is being presided over by Mr. Lawal, who happens to be the president of the Senate. That process cannot go through. A House presided by Wajab Amila, who happens to be an APC member, who all of them have always echoed that whatever the president does is right, it cannot go wrong. I doubt the possibility of success. So, but the point is that they have made a point, and Nigerians will be happy that the House is living up to its expectation by drawing the attention of the president to the state of insecurity. We are not safe all over. You listen to the television, you listen to the radios, you listen to all over the social media. Everyone is complaining of one thing or other. Somebody is abducted, somebody is kidnapped, somebody is killed, somebody is murdered all over the country. I mean, it's blood letting all over the country. No one feels safe anymore. So I think that the president himself should be worried. And I think that the presidency must issue a statement in order to tell Nigerians we are in a state of alert. What are we supposed to do? What is the presidency doing? What are the security agents doing in order to secure this country? That statement is very critical at this point in order to assure Nigerians that we are really, there is really a government that is in charge of running Nigeria. That, again, is very critical for us to hear from the presidency that they're still in charge and they are totally controlling Nigeria.
Dr. Ubani, I'd like to remind you that the president's spokesman, Garba Shehu, he recently brought out a statement where he says that the terrorists are just simply trying to instill fear in the hearts of Nigerians. And he says the president is doing everything he can, and he's even doing more than he should to secure Nigeria. So how would you react to that?
I think that is a political statement. And also, the Minister of Information also told the investors that Nigeria is the safest place for them to come and invest. They make political statements in order to present the fact that they have performed. But majority of Nigerians know that today we are more insecure. We are no longer secured, than where we were under the government of President Jonathan. Because the reason why President Jonathan was removed was on this issue of insecurity and the management of the economy. And the president then gave us the impression that he is coming in as a retired general. And being a military man, he will be able to know the nuances and tackle the state of insecurity in such a manner that Nigeria will be a safer place. But you and I know that we have had more deaths under this government. We and I know that we have had more attacks. In fact, there was no issue of a herdsmen farmers clash in the previous government. But under this government, we have had them. Bandits was never in existence. It was only terrorists we were dealing with. Now they changed the name as bandits, but they are even more ferocious. They are even more dangerous than the so-called terrorists. So it's a political statement that Shehu Garba was making. The truth of the matter is today is that Nigeria is not safe. And the president owes us a responsibility, being the one that is elected to be in charge of Nigeria, to actually give us hope that we are secured, that something is being done in order to secure us. Those political statements are very irritating. They are very annoying. They are, provoking. And that's the kind of statement we don't want to hear at this point in time. What we want to see is that government in action, trying to make sure that everywhere is secured and lives and properties are secure. That is the kind of thing we want them to do, and not political statement that is actually annoying.
Well said, sir. I want to pivot the conversation just a little bit back to the judiciary. We know that we are in an election season. These seasons tend to be times of insecurity and disgruntlement. As we know, a lot of candidates throw their rings into the hat, and for whatever reason, not all of them have things work out their way. We know they take these issues to the courts, and the courts get bogged down for months trying to discern and appropriate judgment in the right way. Going into this February of 2023, with all the things that we have working against us, politically speaking, in our nation, how do you suggest that the judiciary wade through the mountain of litigations that will be coming their way due to the elections and politics? This surely is another reason why they are unable to enact their duties as well as they can. Is there any other way to streamline such activities so that they're not busy with all these extraneous cases?
The point is that, as rightly pointed out, we are heading towards a new election. And the good news is we have a new electoral act that has just been applied in 2 states, I think Ekiti and Osun. And very soon, most of these cases will come to court, and then we get interpretation of what the new law is. Of course, the pre-election matters are also lying in the courts, and they have a timeline within which to dispose them. But the election itself will take place in February. And we have people that will actually come to court who feel aggrieved if they lose the election and they feel that it was lost due to irregularity. The law allows them to come to the judiciary for a proper interpretation of what has happened and justice meted out. I will advise that the judiciary must be up and doing. They must understand the provisions of the new electoral act that have just been enacted and try as much as possible to mete out justice. When you mete out justice, you reduce the level of people taking laws into their hand. Why some people take laws into their hand is that if they lose confidence in our judiciary, they cannot get justice. So what is the purpose of wasting my time with a judicial system that cannot mete out justice? And so they now take laws into their hand, and that's why we're seeing a lot of things happening. Apart from the fact that there are economic dimension to what is happening in the security, the issue of people not being allowed to go to school, they are not, the education system has collapsed, and the economic system has collapsed, making people to be jobless and then become easily a prey they use for crime and all that. The issue of injustice also lead people to take laws into their hand by, this crime that we're having here and there. So I think that a country that understands its responsibility must look at what are the causes of crime, what are the causes of insecurity, what are the causes of problem in a country, why are people disgruntled, and try as much as possible to tackle them, from philosophy point of view, philosophical point of view, sociological point of view, economically point of view, political point of view, culturally point of view, religiously point of view. That's how countries are being run. You get all these professionals to advise you how to combine all this, knowledge in order to give people good governance and ensure that people are happy. But unfortunately, what we are seeing in Nigeria is that we make mistake in the kind of leadership we recruit, who do not understand the purpose of going to governance. And that's why we're having problems all over. There is no sector that is working. The educational sector has collapsed. ASU is on strike. Now the health sector has collapsed. We have all our big men going abroad for medicals. We have our big men also going abroad for almost everything because they have collapsed the country. So I think that in the recruitment process, I will enjoin Nigerians to be awake. Let's be awake in 2023. Let's not make the mistake we have made in previous times in choosing wrong leadership that have brought us to where we are. Let's really rescue Nigeria by being truthful, by having good character, and bringing the kind of person that will make this country to be well, so that we begin to have a country that Europeans will be trooping here, because we have everything here to make Nigeria one of the best countries in the world. So the crisis that come up is bad leadership, and that bad leadership starts from recruitment process that is always very faulty, the electoral process. If you get it right, get a judicial sector that is working well, I can assure you that Nigeria will be on the path to progress, on the path to making everyone to feel happy, because it's a big country that has everything. But unfortunately, we lack leadership, and that deficiency in leadership have kept us to where we are.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ubani. Your passion is apparent. Of course, it's important to make the right decisions at the polls come 2023. But back to the breaking news where the senators, are threatening to impeach President Buhari. 6 weeks is a long time, if we're going to be honest. A lot can happen in 6 weeks. I'm just wondering what immediate steps can be taken by the other arms of government, judiciary and legislature, to probably get a quicker reaction, not even a reaction, but to get a quicker implementation of what we need to see to feel safe in our country. Briefly, please.
I think the three arms of government must come together and try and have a meeting, a private meeting with the president. Maybe the president may not understand what is going on. No one is safe anymore in the country, but where the three arms of government come together and say, look, let's have a tete-a-tete, let's have an in-house meeting and understand what is going on. And then the security chiefs must be brought into that meeting to really brief Nigerians what is going, the leaders, what is going on, because everyone should be concerned. As you rightly pointed out, 6 weeks is too long. I think an emergency meeting should be called. The level of state of insecurity and the warnings that are coming from these bandits is like they want to take over the country itself. And if they take over the country, no one is going to be safe. So the thing now is that leaders must come together and meet the president. Avoid all the protocols. Have a meeting with the president, have a meeting with the security chiefs. What is actually going on? Is it that they are incapable? Is it that now they have become helpless? Is it that they don't have the arms? Is it that there are other things they need to do they're not doing? And come up with a solution. 6 weeks as really is too long. Are we going to wait, with these killings that are going on every day, until 6 weeks when the president will take an action? So I think they need to come together to have an emergency meeting concerning this state of insecurity, in which some of these things will be probably, briefed to the leadership of the three arms of government. And they now know what to do. A more proactive measure has to be taken. That is the truth.
Dr. Monday Ubani, Chairman of the Nigeria Bar Association Section on Public Interest and Development Law, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.